Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's June 1st. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And just a quick look at the daily chart. You can see we did trade down into the midline, and we closed off of that. So maybe we'll bounce and go higher from here. We could continue to push lower. We'll just have to wait and see. But that would be your first near-term target that you expect prices to test. I talked about that yesterday. Once prices move through a midline, they'll usually come back and test them, and they did that. Or basically, I call that midline, but that's the EMA. Um, so prices did bounce off that and go higher. So we'll see where we go from here. So far, we're still off those lows, so maybe we'll turn and go higher. We could continue on down. If we did, I would say we actually came back and tested this level too at the same time. If you draw a horizontal line there, you can see that we not only we test the EMA, we tested we had a retest of this breakout area here too. So we'll see where we go from here. Hopefully we'll continue higher tomorrow, but we'll see. So there's a look at the daily chart. You can see it was mostly bearish day. We did close off the lows. So we'll go over and take a look at the 2,000 tick chart, go through the trades, and wrap this day up. Okay, here it is. And let me get this off my chart. It started out looking like it was going to be a range, and then the bottom just fell out. And you can clearly see there's a two-tiered blue channel. Looks like we got an overshoot. In the end, you were better off to play these two shorter term channels. I had this blue one on here, but the best play was to play the two shorter term channels. You can see we did come back to the blue here, instantly got a break, made a new low, and reversed out of there. And here we got a break and a new high, and we reversed back down again, and we're still trading lower. So we'll have to see how tomorrow plays out. But I'm going to remove this one because I don't think you need it. Actually, we'll leave it on there for now because it maybe does help some up here. But once you got into these two channels, that's really all you needed, and you didn't really need the blue channel. So this should be, I usually make these this pink color. Don't ask me why I picked pink. It just is a distinctive color that easily shows those type areas. So anyway, here we are. There was a trend working up when we came in this morning. 7 o'clock came right in here. This was just a tad before the reversal. If you were sitting at your desk at 6:45, by all means take that reversal. If you're a skilled chart reader, if you're new to this, I say this a lot. I probably don't say it enough. If you're new to chart reading and you're just starting to learn what we do, don't even think about reversals. There's a reason I don't put them in the manual and teach them and talk about them. It's because if you try to learn these while you're learning the basics, you're just going to delay the learning curve. You're going to set yourself back, and you might be able to spot the pattern, but you need to understand why the pattern alone is not good enough. You got to understand the context, and it's going to take you a while. So you need to just concentrate on the basics, looking for trends with second entries at the key entry point, and in ranges looking for buys off the lows and sells off the highs. If you concentrate on that, and the rest of it kind of, you want to learn the rest of it organically as you're learning the basics, and you will. And with time and experience, you'll start to see this stuff. But anyway, if you're here, take that trade. There was a second entry here, but technically this is the signal bar. This is an inside bar. Inside bars tend to be unreliable. If you took this trade, I mean, in real time, I really like this trade. You would have had a hard time getting in it. If you dropped a limit order in there, you might get in it. But I don't even think you could get in this trade. I really liked it in real time. I didn't want to mark it, though. Maybe I'll mark it green, because next thing you know, somebody will take one of these and say, well, why'd that fail? You marked it in another chart lesson. But you have to understand the context. Just because you see the same pattern, and that's where people get mixed up. They think we're pattern traders. You might have traded this as a break out of this little congestion as well. You see that congestion? And you might even, you got a new low here, but your failure occurred right here, but you're just going sideways there. So it's almost like a little failed breakout. But the main thing is this is a spike in challenge right off the key entry point. And after a break out of this range, knowing prices are probably going to come back. And a lot of times these failures out the low side tend to be important lows. And you can see that was important low. And if you catch that, you catch a runner, and you probably get to ride this all the way to the highs here. So that's the reason I'm really drawn to that trade, but it'll fail on you. So at the very least, I'll make it green. We trend on up here, and then we come back. You get a second entry right here, but no signal bar. And you actually have a little channel working down here. And you do get a break in a new low. So, and that is the first close outside of that trend line. And then just get this big bearish or bullish bar. But it's, again, you may take that because this has been a pretty strong trend. You'll probably retest those highs. But that is congested. So maybe you mark that one. Maybe you mark it green. I'd probably wait on a better trade. And you run up here, and of course, now you got a break and a new high. And I like this just to ride it back to the EMA. It's a chance prices could push higher again, but that's a clear double top, and you do make a slightly higher high here, so it is a little bit higher high. And these are like a 2-bar matching high here as well. I like this one just to try to ride it back to the EMA, and you may get lucky. And if this is a range day, prices may rocket on off, and of course they do. I guarantee you a bunch of people got trapped here. But notice this channel working down. You get a break, you get a first entry, and then you get a second entry. If you traded this on the engulfing bar, I like that as a red entry. But if you waited till here to go short, big mistake. Big mistake. That bar is just way too big, and on a breakout, you're probably going to fail first. So don't fall for that trick. The only way you could enter this is if you have enough room to the lows. And you definitely don't want to enter it on the other side. Even though it could take off, a lot of times they'll reverse on you. You actually get a triple test here, and I didn't mark this one because it's really close here, but this is a possibility. It's a triple test. We're probably going lower. It is a failed break higher as well. So maybe you risk that one if you got room there. I don't know if there's enough room to get out there or not. I didn't even measure it. I think you're better off to wait on something better than that. See, it looks like there's only 4 ticks there, and so it's not enough room. Although it doesn't matter. But the next time you take it, it will matter because it'll bounce off that support, and you'll wonder why it failed on you. So you got to have room there. Of course, another breakout fails, and we're back. You could almost extend this channel on over because we actually get back into it again. And notice that we run up here and we break out the high side, but wait on the lower high, which comes here, and then you don't really have enough room to enter before those lows. Although we did push through already, I'd wait. And then you get a failure here that and look how huge that bar. I don't think I would wait till here. It is an engulfing bar. Maybe you enter when it comes by. It's a failure, so your entry would be 1 tick below this bar right here, and you can see it go. But I think the better trade is to wait on it to come back here and turn down right off that trend line again. And technically got a new high here, so you get a first entry and then a second entry. So it's a failed second entry. It doesn't like a second entry, even though you might look at that as a possible hidden second entry, but you got all you need here. You can clearly see that key entry point holding. Draw your point here, boom, boom, and it's definitely a failure. You definitely can look at that as a failure. So, and at the very least, you would expect another leg down similar to that one. And you can see we're not the only ones seeing that because you can see some buying came in. That's people profit taking in case it doesn't go lower. They know where these measured moves are, and that's where they take their profits. In this case, maybe it was a bad choice because it kept going lower. But that's probably exactly where I would have taken my profit. And I don't see any more entries in here. This one's tempting. Again, it's right off the key entry point, but we just come down here to these lows. You probably would have moved these lows on down by now. Maybe right in there. Maybe if you just come across those last two. But you can see you get this little failed break lower. Even if you come all the way to the very low on the closes, you still get the break lower. Comes back. Maybe you take that trade. I don't know. It's a little risky. It's a little ways from the EMA. We've moved quite a bit, but you can clearly see that key entry point in the yellowish looking channel is valid. I didn't mark that one. I'm not going to mark it. Work on down. I don't see, we're getting too far away from the EMA, and then we just start chopping sideways. I don't see anything in either direction there. We drop down. There's a breakout pullback short here, but don't take that trade. I just don't see anything in there I like. And then, of course, we pull back. And notice we get a triple test here. We tested that once, twice, 3 times. Nice bearish bar right there. That's what you want to see on a breakout of a range. You want to see it tested a couple of 3 times and hold, and then we'll probably go lower, and that's what happens here. So I like that one. And we actually get an overshoot here. First I wasn't sure, but if you drag this on down to the lows, it doesn't really fit that nicely anymore. I mean, maybe it kind of does going far, but I think that's an overshoot. So I think this was your lows here. And we got an overshoot. And notice we got the green channel. You get the break, and you get a couple of moves to a new high, and then you make that lower high. I didn't draw the channel here. Generally, I don't draw. This is the retest here, so generally I don't draw one on this. But you can clearly see there's a little channel working up, and you get a break. It doesn't quite get a new high there. It's basically a double top with that bearish bar. And we're probably going to come back to the EMA. And notice where we push through that midline. We'll probably come back and test that at a minimum before we go higher. So that's what you're kind of banking on there. There's another lower high here, but I think you moved too far there. You might treat that like a reversal, but to me, that's just sideways, and you got one. This all looks like one leg, really. You actually get a second entry short here. Not a good enough signal bar. This is just too congested in here. I don't see anything I like. And of course, you draw the trend line there, and we drop on down. And again, I don't really. You might look at this reversal right here because of that trend line. Notice the first entry, second entry. There is room to get out there, so maybe you consider that one. Drops on down. Too far away from the EMA here. You don't want to take a short down there because this is what happens. It snaps back. And this one runs up. You get a first entry and then a second entry. Yeah, this little channel is still in play, but this does confirm this trend line. Very bearish bar. Pretty strong downtrend. I like going short there. A lower high here, but I'd wait on that one. And then you get your failure right here. Another great entry. Drops on down. You might have looked at this as a second entry, but again, this just looks like one leg up. This is just sideways stuff. You might count that one. This has been a strong downtrend. That's the first breakout, really, or close outside. And that's not just a tick that reverses. There's a few ticks, maybe even a point or so there. So maybe you count that one. I'll at least give it green, but I just thought it was a little risky. And now you got your close outside and a new low. But now, look, you got another double bottom. You get a first entry and then a second entry. And you really try to go higher 3 times there. So I like that one. I wouldn't enter way down here, but when it breaks higher and comes past on the engulfing, you could enter on that. And it bounces down here. But don't be trying to buy yet because the blue channel is probably still in play. And you can see we do get a break and we move to a new low and then it reversed. So it's perfect price action, really. I didn't draw this little channel here. You got one coming back. And you get a break. And This is like a third entry, I think. 1, 2, 3. So there's really nothing going on there. There is a lower high here. Maybe you enter there on the lower high, since that's the first break. There's a good chance they trap some people here. So I'm not crazy about that one. I'd rather wait for the reversal, and you just don't get the reversal set up here. But you do get another triple test. You could argue that we are a failure or whatever right here. So you might take, the only problem with that is it's on the wrong, as a failure, it's on the wrong side of the EMA. It does close on this side, but technically it's, you want to see it turn down off of that, not just turn down and come through it. It just depends on the setup, and this is a little too sideways to consider that a reversal. So maybe you argue there's a triple test. You could argue that's a triple test, and that would be a second entry. If you were going to enter here, that's where I would enter. And then you might look at this as a lower high, but I think you're pressing it on that one too. This is the better entry, and this one's probably, you could probably almost call that one red. It's real close, but I just, in real time, it just was hard to know if we were, it looked like there's a possibility we could still go higher. It doesn't happen, but if it's not a sure thing, which I didn't feel like any three of those were, I just didn't mark them. And then finally we make the new low, first entry, second entry. There's a failure right here. And I didn't mark this one either, but you should probably take that trade if you see it. I'll mark it green. There's still plenty of room back to these highs, and you do have the break and new low in place, so it could reverse, and this is where you catch these nice moves. Unfortunately, on this one you don't get a runner, but you could have. So then we just start trending higher. Finally, you get a first entry, second entry, and you could almost call that a triple test as well. 1, 2, 3. But second entry is all you need with that really bullish bar. That's a fairly nice move up. You get another second entry right here, and this one you get the trap with the engulfing bar right at the trend line. I think it technically ticks higher right there, but that still looks like 2 easy legs down. I'm going to take that one. That's the reason I marked it green, because I do think you get a, let me just verify that, 99.50, 99.75. So you do get that tick high, but in my opinion, even though by the counts, it's a second entry right there, I think you can skip that and count that as a second entry. But for that, it's a little more advanced. So for that reason, I'm going to mark it green. It's a little aggressive. So, but this is another spike and channel up, and that's the first break. So that was the other reason why I marked that one green, because you already had your break and a new high, and so it doesn't mean we're not still going higher, but you can clearly see it confirmed that trend line as well. So there's still reasons to take that trade. And of course there's a reversal in here, but that's too congested, too much resistance across here. Don't enter into this resistance. This is what I'm always preaching to certain people about. Don't enter into that resistance. They'll go long in here and it'll fail, and they can't figure out why. Even if the trend's been strong, when you see prices turning down that much and all that congestion and sideways, stay out of it. Look to enter down here on the low end and go up back with it with enough room. And that's what you get here. There's technically 1, 2, 3, a triple test right there, and you're just playing the low of the range right here. But the key is it's off that blue trend line too, so I like that one. That turns out to be a really nice move. Runs up there, you're just chopping. Nothing in here you want to trade. I didn't draw it, but there's another little sideways channel here. It looks more valid right there. You can see you get a failed break out the top, then out the bottom. There's no setups there though. There is a failed second entry long here, but we could be back in this channel again. You can see that, and so it would have still worked, but I don't think you want to risk it. You just get a first entry there, and this was a second entry, but this is your signal bar, so and you're right at the key entry point again, so there's a chance you're going higher. It does break and come to a new low, and notice the little channel working down. You get a break, new low. There's a a first entry, then a second entry. But to me, that just looks like one leg up and a pull back, especially when you got a 2-bar matching high. When this bar couldn't break above it, and then you get this next one that breaks one tick and just sits there. That's what you got to be concerned about, that it backs up before, even if it's going higher, it backs up first. So I don't like entering right there. And of course, we do run to a new high. So now we got the break of the yellow channel. We run to a new high, and there's pretty much 2 legs up there. I always try to remember to talk about these measured legs, and I forget a lot of times. And you can see that's about a perfect measured move. You try to go higher once, you push back through, you try to go higher twice. There's a failure right there, but you just bounced off that trend line. So I think it's a little premature to take a failure yet. But when you get a second entry short with that bearish signal bar, we're probably going lower. And you see it still does end up going higher again, but you would have easily got a scalp or more out of that. And that's how I saw it. So big trend down that plays out and reverses. Fairly decent recovery. We recovered about half of that. So that may mean we're headed for another measured leg down like that. I mean, I'm not convinced the selling's over yet. I want to believe it is, and there's some hints on the chart that maybe it could be, but there's been some hints before and they don't follow through. So I'm not convinced they're going to follow through yet. We got to see. But anyway, it's already late. I'm really late getting this done today. A lot going on. So I'm a little late getting this done. So I'm going to wrap it up and get out of here. It's been a long day. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.